All right, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. All right, so to all the people who regularly attend the Monday night Bible study, I apologize in advance. You guys have to hear this for the second time. But there's actually a lot of people who don't attend that meeting, and I'm hoping could benefit from this message. I actually benefited from sort of re-preparing for it because it was something that convicted me at the time that I was preparing it, and then I kind of just fell off the wagon, and trying to prepare it again reminded me of how important this is. And actually, funny enough, what Mike was saying just before this, when his announcements, this was not at all orchestrated. He had no idea what I was going to talk about, but he was talking about precisely what I want to talk about. And I'll get into it in detail as we go. But this talk is, it's called Social Justice. And I was inspired to give this talk when I went on the GYP retreat, and the book that was being discussed was On Social Justice by St. Basil, and it's incredibly convicting. And I'd like to look at social justice through the lens of changing the world, and I mean that in a big way, because I think oftentimes when we look at changing the world, we say, oh, we leave that for the big organizations with the money and they've been doing it for a while, and if I want to get involved in something, let's do something small to start. Let's focus on ourselves, right? But I want to talk about something actually changing the world, not just like, okay, I went to Ronald McDonald House on this Thursday, or I went. It's nice. It's nice that we do these things. It's nice that we go to the Midnight Mission. It's nice that we go and we go to the food bank, and it's nice that we do all these kinds of services. But I'm talking about changing the world, taking the world that exists around you and making it so it is no longer the same. It is not the way it looks anymore. It's not just that I'm kind of floating around inside of the world that exists. I am making it a different world. And this is something that it's been on my heart, and unfortunately I haven't made any dents in the world, but I really would like to. We need to get serious about it, right? We can't just do it small anymore. We need to decide that we're truly going to make an impact. So like I said, St. Basil had written a book called On Social Justice. And he'd written the Sermon to the Rich. And this sermon was incredibly convicting. It was very, very challenging to read, very difficult. I found it extremely difficult to read. Why? Because in every sentence, on every page, I was being convicted because I was guilty of every single thing. Everything. And it's not just me. I feel like our entire society is probably very similar to the society that existed when St. Basil wrote this book. Because at the time, I think it was the 4th century, and Christianity had gone from being highly persecuted to widely accepted. Why? Because you had Constantine, and then he made it the official religion, right? So you had all these wealthy people like us, in America, like it was a wealthy nation, and they're Christian, but they're affluent, and they'd kind of forgotten their roots, right? And so he was writing it to those people, and I feel like it's extremely relevant to us today. And he calls the people out for a lack of ability to administer social justice. So what is social justice? Because there's a lot of different ways to define social justice. But the way that he defines it at a very extremely high level, he says, if I am keeping things for myself, if I have things that I'm keeping for myself, that it's likely at somebody else's expense. That's like it in a nutshell. And that's incredibly convicting in itself, because how much do we keep to ourselves, right? And he take it a step further. He said, if I am living a life of comfort, even we can say that we're living a life of extreme comfort in America. And a lot of us may say, no, I'm not. I live in a tight little apartment down the street. I take the bus. Whatever it is that we might say is our excuse for saying, I don't live comfortably. I don't live like the guy in the mansion. I don't live like the guy in the really big house. But no, I'm talking about comfort relative to most of the rest of the world's population. I'm talking about, you guys are going to Kenya tomorrow. You guys are going to see that. And I'm going to talk about Kenya later in my talk. But most of the rest of the world does not have, they don't have the luxuries that we have. They can't just walk into any room in their house and turn a tap and get clean running water. That would be crazy to them. They have to oftentimes travel for miles just to get some clean water, just to live, right, to survive. So you're saying if you live in extreme comfort, that you're likely keeping things at the expense of somebody else. Very difficult because we're all guilty of it. None of us are innocent. So it's tough to read. And when I say, I don't mean just money, right? Because oftentimes we get caught up in the, no, we need to give more money. We need to give more money. But money is part of it, yes. But I'm talking about everything, right? Everything that's in our possession, right? Whether it's your talents, whether it's your time, there's so many things that we have that we can give. And we're saying if we're keeping those things to ourselves, it's at the expense of somebody else. And one of the parables that he has a meditation on, it's one that we've all heard, parable of the rich young ruler, right? So everybody knows that one. This rich young guy comes to Jesus and says to him, "Good teacher, tell me what I must do." So he says, "Have you kept the commandments? Keep the 10 commandments." He says, "Oh, I've kept them since I was a child." He says, "Okay, then you've done well." He says, "No, I want to be perfect." So he takes it a step. "No, I want to be perfect. What must I do, teacher?" And he says, "Okay, take all that you have, sell it, give it to the poor, come and follow me." How do I do that? That's so difficult. That's so tough. That's extremely hard to do, especially for somebody that abounds in wealth like him. And this isn't general advice, right? Because not every rich person that Jesus encountered, he said, "Go sell all your stuff and come and follow me," right? Joseph of Arimathea was very wealthy. He didn't tell him to do that, right? Joseph of Arimathea was actually the one who paid for the burial fees for Jesus. So had he not had the wealth to do it, he wouldn't have been able to. So it's not that we're all universally called to be impoverished, but his specific prescription from Jesus, he went to Jesus and said, "What must I do?" And his specific prescription was, money is keeping you from me. It's money for you. That's your problem. Go get rid of it. Couldn't do it. Walked away. He came to his teacher, came to Christ himself, God himself, and he knew that it was God. He's like, "I want to be perfect. I want to fall. I really want you and what you want from me. What is that?" "Oh, I can't do it." So, and I don't want to harp on it too much in terms of the wealth, because I want to take it further. But the meditation that St. Basil had on this was that he said, the first question that Jesus asked him was, "Have you kept the commandments?" And he said, "Yes." And St. Basil said, "Did he really?" Because commandment number 1 is love God, right, with everything. Commandment number 2 is love other people. Love them as yourself. So he said, if he truly loved other people as himself, would he have been so wealthy? Because if he was truly loving people just as much as himself, for everything that he gained, he would have distributed just as much as he gained. So he would have never become wealthy. So his meditation was, he probably wasn't keeping the commandments, even though he said he was. So again, I don't want to get stuck on just money, because it's everything that is in my possession. And when I talk about things that are in my possession, it's the time that I have. Oftentimes, time is the hardest one, even harder than money for a lot of us, right? So hard to find the time to do things. It's like, "Oh, you want me to get involved in that? Oh, I'm sorry, I just don't have the time." It's talents. What skills do I have that are unique to me? And they may be talents that I was born with, didn't have to work for them, or talents that I've worked a great deal to hone and perfect and to make my own, and now it's something that I have in my possession. It could be money, it could be knowledge. I'm very knowledgeable in something. I've studied something extensively. I've worked with something extensively. I now have this knowledge. It gives me a capability that other people don't have. It could be connections, right? A lot of times what we need is connections. So like, for example, Father Searle was talking about how he's been able to use other people's connections to different city officials to help move things along with a nonprofit organization that he's trying to get started. So all of these things are things that we have in our possession. And the idea was that if I have things in my possession, none of them belong to me, right? Because if I love God and I love others like myself, then everything that's in my possession belongs to God and others, not to myself. So if I have these things and I'm not giving them away, then essentially I'm stealing. I'm guilty of theft. Extremely difficult message. And when I heard it again, I was like, oh man, this message again, so tough, so hard, right? You hear it and you're just like, what do I do with that? Because the natural inclination is, I got to focus on me, I got to focus on my family, my friends. I'll get to the other people, I promise. Okay, I'm going to give something. I'm going to give some time. I'll get there, I promise. It's so tough to actually live this. Now, there are lots of ways to give. So, for example, Father Cyril started an organization called the Coptic Foundation for Social Justice, funny enough. He's very inspired by this book. And so is the bishop. And the bishop is, he wants to have a conference on social justice. So it's becoming this big thing. So, Coptic Foundation, we're talking about getting this massive building, and they want to make it a community center, and it costs money, right? So sorry, I can't help with that. I don't have any money. Or if I have money, it's not going to buy you a $5 million building. Well, are you articulate? Are you intelligent? Can you write grants? Can you raise awareness? Do you have a big network? Do you have a bunch of friends on LinkedIn and Facebook that you can share, raise awareness with? I mean, we have lots of different ways to make an impact. You can fundraise. You get other people who are wealthy to give their money away, right? So there's different ways to do it. And this is how we change the world. And this is where I want to get to Kenya, because Kenya, in my eyes, is extremely unique in the grand community of the Coptic community, right? Kenya as a church in the greater Coptic church is very unique to me. Because when I go there, everybody knows what Coptic is. It's uncanny. And I'll tell you guys a story. Some of you may have heard it before. But last time I went to Kenya, I arrived in Nairobi, and I had been coordinating with the mission coordinator there, who was going to have a driver ready for me at a certain time, so that right when I got off my plane, I can get there, the driver would have my name, I get in the car with the driver would drive me to the church. I get there and there's no driver. And I'm standing around in an airport in Nairobi, and I'm looking around, I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do. So I didn't even think to get the address, because I'm thinking, driver, I don't need an address. So I didn't bother. And then I don't have internet on my phone. I turned off my phone while I was there, and I was just like, okay, I have no idea what to do now. So I go to the information desk. And could you just imagine landing in LAX and going to the information desk at the International Terminal in LAX and saying, I need to get to the Coptic church. They're like, have you tried Google? It's like, nobody knows what the Coptic church is. Copt? Like Copts? No, Coptic. Oh, no, I don't know what that is. Right? Nobody knows what the Coptic church is. I went to this information desk, and I'm like, okay, how do I explain this? I need to get to the Coptic. Coptic? Yeah, oh, okay. So she looks at the guy with the transportation authorities across the way. She's like, Coptic. And then the guy's like, oh, Coptic? He's like, come over here. Waves the driver over. Coptic. The driver's like, okay, let's go. So everybody knew what Coptic was. Everybody knew what Coptic was. There wasn't a person in the city that didn't know what Coptic was. Which is crazy to me, because imagine if that was America. Imagine if you came, and it would be crazy if you didn't know Coptic church. How do you not know what the Coptic church is? Have you not seen what they've done? Have you not seen the way they've changed the world around us? What if it was like that here? Right? And I'll tell you why it's like that there. Because, I mean, it started with Mba Antonios Moros, right? He's a bishop that's now in South Africa. In the mid to late 70s, he established a church there. But before that, he had gone to Ethiopia. His parents told him he was crazy. He was like, I just want to go off to Africa. People are like, yeah, Habibi, nobody goes to Africa. Just stay in Egypt and serve the people. No, I want to go to... please, just stay. No. And he insisted on going. And then he ended up in Kenya. And then there was a refugee situation in the late 70s. And they ended up forming like a small clinic at his monastery out in Maseno, which is in the southwest part of Africa. And they started treating people. And then Bishop Paul got involved. Bishop Paul took over. M. Antonius went south. Fast forward 30, 40 years. And if you go to Kenya now, you see that they've got like a megaplex of a hospital. It's like 10 stories high. It's got, it looks fancier than most hospitals that I've seen in America. It's got plasmas on the wall. It's got this really nice looking sign. Incredibly impressive facility. And yeah, they serve people that pay, but they also serve probably just as many people that don't pay because they're able to fund it, right? And then not just that, not just this super hospital that they've got. They've got something called the Hope Center. The Hope Center serves 30,000 patients. Think about that, 30,000 AIDS patients. And it's widely credited for being one of the biggest forces in turning the tide of AIDS in Central Africa. That's the Coptic Church in Kenya, right? And you think about it, you're like, wow, just AIDS alone, 30,000 people. Think about our surrounding communities, non-Coptic people. Have we impacted 30,000? Have we impacted 3,000? Have we impacted 300? Maybe, maybe not. That is what I'm talking about when I say change the world. Like, really go and change the world. And that's where I want to go into the next thing is, to whom much is given, much is required. Important point, this is a verse that always convicts me because we've been given so much. We've been given exceedingly abundantly above all we could ask, right? That's what Paul says, exceedingly abundantly. We have so much. Think about the two men that I talked about just before. M. Antonius Moros, Bishop Paul. They're both monks. You know, monks, they have something called the vow of poverty. It means they have $0. And what did they do? Their resources were zero, and they changed the world. What are our resources? Right? So this is where I want to get into the next thing, which is we are in a unique place and time in the Coptic Church in America. Right? And actually, this church is testament to that. This church is testament to that. Because before, this was not our church. This is our parents' church. Right? We grew up in a church that was established, in the late 60s and 70s. And it was largely a church that was established for immigrants. Right? All the Egyptian people that came over, we need a place to worship, and they started churches. Started St. Mark, and then, St. George, and they just went from there, right? So now we've got over 30 churches. And actually, I find that specific fact to be amazing. Why? Because think about the people who got all of that established. So you think coming to America in your adult life, and most people having nothing or just their degree, barely speaking the language, if at all, and like trying to figure out, what do I do with my kids? Do I send them to school, public, private? I don't know what any of this stuff is, right? And they're just trying to figure out how to live. And somehow, they established all of this. How? Like, think about us now in contrast to that. We grew up here. We know the education system. We know the language. We know how America works. We know the culture. We have connections to lots and lots and lots of people who can help us get things done. Our parents didn't have any of that. And look what they did. The problem is not our capability or our resources. It's our motivation. Are we motivated enough to do it? Because we know we can. We know we're capable. And actually, what I love this church, because this church shows me something tangible that shows us that we're capable, right? Because this church was started by people who are culturally American, who largely grew up here and felt that they needed something to serve our community, our culturally American Coptic community. And we started something. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. We all love it, and we're all here. We come here as much as we can, and it's awesome. But we need to keep going, right? Like Mike was saying, we want to we're very internally focused, which is great to start, but we need to get externally focused. We need to get to the point that I can go to anybody on the street and say, Coptic? Yeah, Coptic, right? That's where we need to be. And also look at the intellectual power of the Coptic community. And this is not unique to our generation, because even our parents' generation. Like, I think per capita, the Coptic community has more doctors, engineers, lawyers, businessmen, entrepreneurs than most other communities, right? You look around and there's so many people that are of all those different trades that just highly educated people, highly capable people. It's unique, especially for an immigrant. I mean, there are other immigrant. I mean, you see a lot of successful Indians and a lot of successful, just Asian people in general, including Indians, tend to do pretty well. And it's something that's cultural. I think it's embedded in our culture that we are expected to focus on education and do well, and that's great. But now that we have that education, now that we have that community, how are we leveraging it, right? So this takes me to my next point, which is the question, do I give until it hurts? Do I give until it hurts? And I'm not just talking about money, because, yeah, that's often, when we ask that question, oftentimes, that's where it hurts. Oh, okay, I can give something and then I want to give more. But I'm talking about, do I give time till it hurts? Because let me take a step back. The widow and the two mites. This is a parable. I remember I heard somebody giving a sermon about it, and they were talking about how, Jesus said that she gave much, but why? She gave 2 pennies. That's not a lot of money. But he was saying, okay, the tithe is 10%, right? So whatever I make, I'm supposed to give 10%. So she had 2 cents. She could have given 1 cent, and she would have given 50%, right? That's 5 times the tithe. She could have, come on, I'm doing my part here. I gave you half of everything that I have. She gave 100%. Gave it all. Gave till it hurt to the extreme. So, again, with us, when I talk about time, money, talents, knowledge, experience, connections, do we give any of that till it hurts? Like time, for example. Do we give time till it hurts in terms of service? Or are we kind of like, let me fill my social calendar. Let me schedule as many cool, fun things that I can do. I've got an opening on Thursday, I'll show up there. Or is it like, there's this thing with Ronald McDonald House. Am I doing anything? Oh, I'm going to be home bored that night. I might as well go. It's better than being bored. Right? Or is it like the other way where, oh man, like all my friends are doing this one thing over here, and I know they're all going to be there, and I would love to join them, but I'm committing to do this instead. Giving till it hurts, right? It's a sacrifice. Because that's when it actually matters. I mean, until then, it doesn't really matter. Because, for example, the other people that were giving after the widow gave, or before the widow gave, they were giving abundantly, but it was a drop in the bucket for them. They didn't feel it, right? Didn't actually impact them materially. Didn't change their way of life. Didn't make them have to sacrifice something. They're just kind of like, I've got a lot of money, here's some of it, right? For the widow, it was like a commitment. You talk about, like, have you heard about chickens and pigs and how they say, when you're making breakfast, chickens are involved, but the pig is committed, right? Get it? Eggs, bacon. So like, are you a chicken? Are you just giving some eggs up? Are you committed? Are you giving the bacon up, right? Is it hurting? So the people who have made the biggest difference in the world, the people who have successfully changed the world, are the people who have an insatiable appetite for giving. Insatiable. There's no chance that you can get them to stop. I talked about Bishop Paul and Emma Antonius Mortwas. They both have similar stories. I mean, I think they're both doctors. I know for sure Bishop Paul was a doctor. And I know for Bishop Paul, I was actually talking to one of his classmates from school, who now is a doctor in Kenya. And he was telling me, yeah, I remember when we graduated, and he's like, I'm going to go be a monk. What are you doing? Why are you going to go be a monk? Because think about it, in Egypt, it's not like here. Like here, when you get a medical degree, I mean, even here, it's really tough to get into med school. But you have lots of options. You can kind of flex and go to different kinds of med schools and things. And even here, it's a huge deal. Somebody says, I got into med school. Facebook just goes nuts. And they have like 500 comments and likes. And, oh, congratulations. But in Egypt, to be a doctor, like you had to be like in the 99.99 percentile. Like you had to be at the extreme top of your game. If you were like 99.98%, they're like, sorry, you get pharmacy. Not to put down pharmacists, but that's how it is in Egypt. So like, it was like, if you made doctor, you had to go be a doctor. It's not like you go make doctor and okay, I'm gonna go be a monk, right? Now imagine, he made doctor, he like killed this test, got into medical school, completed medical school, and now is like, all right, I'm gonna go to Africa. I'm gonna be a monk. That is committed. That is insatiable giving, and just continued to give and give and give. I remember while I was in Ethiopia and Kenya last time, I was reading this book called Mountains Beyond Mountains. And it's the story of Paul Farmer. So Paul Farmer, he's a doctor. And it's funny because the book was written by a guy, I've read other of his books, this guy named Tracy Kidder, who writes really incredible autobiographies of people. And it's just stories, true stories. So he had written Mountains Beyond Mountains, and it was just a really awesome story. And it's supposed to just be a secular book about some guy's life who was a doctor who really evoked change in kind of world medicine, right, with the World Health Organization and stuff. But they couldn't keep the Christianity out of the book. Like Paul Farmer's Christianity was so overt that they couldn't keep it out of like every chapter of the book. It's like, oh, and then he said a prayer, and then he started a church over here, and it's just like they couldn't keep it out because it was such a core part of who he was. But this guy, Paul Farmer, he went to Harvard Medical School. And while he's in Harvard Medical School, he wanted to go to Haiti. So he gets into school, and he's like, I want to go to where the poorest, most desolate, dying people are, and I just want to go there and help. Right? So he goes to Haiti, and then Haiti's not enough. He gets it on it's like asking, where is the most terrible place in Haiti? And there's this place called like Kanj or Kang. I don't know how to pronounce that. I read it. But he gets into a car, and then they're saying, beware for your life when you go to this place, because the cars are like flipping off of the edge of cliffs trying to get there. It's like way in the middle of nowhere, and when you get there, it's just the living conditions are unlivable, and people are just dying daily. And he gets there, and he just sees the people, and he's like, he needs to. So he gets involved in a clinic there, and then he's like, I just want to stay here. So he decides that he's just going to stay in Haiti and fly back to Boston to take exams and turn in assignments and stuff. So he's in medical school at Harvard Medical School. He's spending like 90% of his time in Haiti. You imagine, people will go to medical school here, and then it's like you live in school, at the library, wherever you are. That's your life. You imagine like being in a foreign country, in a third world country, serving most of the time, and then coming back, taking tests and going. So he gets through that part, and then now he has to do his residency. And they're kind of like, well, residency is a little different. You kind of have to be here to do stuff, right? So do stuff. So he works it out so that he can be there for 50% of the time and Haiti for 50% of the time and meet his residency requirements. So he does that, and he finishes, and he's now a full-fledged doctor. And then they make him a professor there. So now he's a professor at Harvard, an MD professor at Harvard. So he's getting paid a decent amount of money. So what does he do? He takes every single paycheck, cashes it, takes 100% of it, puts it into the fund for Haiti. That's just what he does. I'm like, what are you doing? It's like, that's where it belongs. He had a quote that really struck me. And his quote was, the idea that some people matter less is the root of everything that's wrong with the world. Because to him, everybody was the same. The people dying in Haiti were the same as the people that he saw in South America and prisons in Russia. And he changed the World Health Organization's view on several, tuberculosis and several ailments. And he changed the world, right? He by all definitions changed the world. Why? Because he had an insatiable appetite for giving. And he would be flying all over the place. Same with Bishop Paul. Bishop Paul is like 70 years old, right? Like he's an older guy. And he's not light either. And he when people go to Africa, 20-year-olds are exhausted trying to keep up with Bishop Paul. I mean, this guy is incredible. I love Bishop Paul. It's like whenever he speaks, I feel the presence of God when he speaks. And he has an insatiable appetite for giving. He just will not stop. Just can't stop. Age 70, still like, no, gotta get the hospital done, gotta make it bigger, gotta help more people days, gotta expand to other African countries, more villages, more churches, more priests. Insatiable. Cannot be stopped. Right? They get into a virtuous cycle instead of a vicious cycle. And everybody tells them they're crazy. Everybody tells Paul Farmer, they're like, what are you doing? You got into Harvard. Why are you going to Haiti? What are you doing? Why you got into med school? Why are you going to Africa? In American society, we tend to have an insatiable appetite for taking. We cannot be satisfied. And this is something that I noticed about actually people in Kenya who have nothing tend to be happier or more satisfied than people here that have everything, because it's like we cannot be quenched, right? I was thinking about the fact that I have an iPhone 5 and I cannot wait to get the iPhone 6. I don't even know what is in the iPhone 6 yet. They haven't announced it. There's no videos. I'm just like, I can't wait. It's coming out. I'm going to get it. Why? Right? We have an insatiable appetite for taking. And it's not just stuff. It's not just money. It's like, oh, I need more knowledge. I need a degree. I need a better job. I want a nicer house. I want to live in this neighborhood instead of that neighborhood. I want, right? They have insatiable appetites for giving, and that's how they change the world. So then you might ask, well, how do I follow what you just talked about? Because I'm not doing any of that stuff. That's completely unrealistic. I'm not telling anybody to do that because I'm not doing that myself. But we can find something that we're passionate about. Something that even remotely passionate about. Something that bothers me in the world. I remember I was having a conversation with one of my coworkers. He's made so much money. I've talked about him before, but he didn't even realize this until recently. He's like in his mid-20s. He's been making money since he was in middle school or something. He's self-made. I think he was getting a trust done. He didn't know how much money he had. He just kind of like has assets all over the world. And they like forced him to sit down and figure out how much his assets were worth. $30 million. And he's like in his mid-20s. And he was telling me how making money bores me now. He's like, he's bored, so he bought a Porsche, and then it's like a Porsche Turbo, and he's like, it's boring. So he gets an R8. He's like, that's boring too. Everything is boring to him now. There's nothing that makes him happy. And he's like, so he's sitting with me, he's like, I don't know what to do now. I really just don't know what to do. So I was telling him, I was like, is there anything about the world that bothers you? Like, if there was one thing about the world that you could change today, and you have the resources to do it, what would it be? And you're just like, deer in the headlights. Nobody's ever asked me that question before. And then it like started eating at him, because I remember for the rest of the day, he was like, I need to figure out what bothers me. I need to figure it out. And I was like, you just go watch some videos about like Bill Gates, right? Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Just like people who have resources that go and want to change the world. So it's like, it's interesting. I mean, find out what bothers you. What could you change about the world? If there was one thing, and you don't have to have money, you don't have to have $30 million. You just have to have the will to do it, right? And prayer to God. And inspire some other people, whatever, right? Talk to people, share your idea. Think big. You know, they tell this to entrepreneurs, like, if you're starting a business and your vision for your business doesn't scare the crap out of you, then it's not big enough, right? Think big. How am I going to go change the world in a big way? Talk to people, share your vision, refine it, get help, find a mentor, find a godly, wise person to talk to, and maybe they'll help you achieve it. Maybe they'll help you refine your idea. Maybe they'll help you get there. Start planning. Find out whatever it'll take. Figure out how do you get to what it's going to take. Take the first step. Start a Facebook page or something. I don't know. If you aren't ready to go on your own, because oftentimes you're like, look, I don't have all the knowledge and resources to go start something on my own. Join somebody else's cause and help. Like, for example, here at HRC, Mike was just talking about it. He wants leaders to step up. He wants people to come and help do stuff. Help do stuff. Figure out what the church needs. Let's turn this church into the most awesome Coptic church ever. Right? Let's go change the world in Culver City, and then let's expand from there. Right? Let's go make a difference. And To conclude, above all, pray, pray, pray. You can never pray enough about something. You want God's guidance, you want His hand in it, and you want to get godly counsel and mentorship. And then go out and do it. Glory be to God forever. Amen.